Good morning to everybody, and I see Trustee Jackie Johnson on the virtual screen here as well. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
I'm going to call to order the Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee this morning. We'll be discussing second readings of a couple of policy updates, and then, very importantly, we will be hearing the Chancellor's recommendations for the appointment of two new presidents in our system. And so we'll move quickly through our more administrative topics this morning. I'd like to take agenda, though, to is Trustee Erlinson here, Trustee Hips, Trustee Teffer, Trustee Murillo, Trustee Sharon, and the chair, obviously, myself are here, so we have a quorum. And I'd also like to welcome to the table our presidential liaisons, President Charlier and President Inch. Thank you very much for your work on this committee. We've got minutes for the March 18 meeting, which were distributed previously. Are there any changes or edits to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes. Motion heard, second, and a second. Thank you very much. I'll call the roll briefly. Trustee Erlinson, Trustee Hips, Trustee Tepper, and the chair votes aye, so motion carries. The minutes of March 18 are approved. And I'll welcome to the table Vice Chancellor Eric Davis, who will take us through the two second readings that we're reviewing this morning, beginning with Board Policy 4.6, reemployment of early retirees. So welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chair Coles, Chancellor Olson, trustees. We have before the board two policies that are at their second reading and for action for the committee. The first is Board Policy 4.6. It is concerned with early separation incentives and the right to prohibit someone who accepts an early separation incentive from reemployment for a period of time. And the policy was up for its first reading. The 30-day comment period concluded on April 9th. We received only one comment during the comment period. The commenter had proposed that we substitute the word severance for a bulleted statement that says that the liquidation of accumulated but unused sick leave in a bulleted list is what is not included in the early separation incentive. The commenter thought it would be clearer to substitute the word severance. We considered the comment, but ultimately concluded it was preferable to keep the established reference in the policy to sick leave liquidation benefits in the draft policy revisions. We think it is a more precise description of what is accepted under the policy, and so we rejected the comment. Other than that, the policy is unchanged from its first. It actually is unchanged from its first reading because we rejected the comment.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I'll see if there are any members of the committee or other trustees that have questions about the policy. I'm seeing none, so therefore I'll ask for a motion to approve the policy as presented after a second reading. I hear a motion, Trustee Erlinson. Is there a second? Second from Trustee Hips. And I'll take a roll to vote on the motion on the table. Trustee Erlinson. Aye. Trustee Hips. Trustee Teffer. And the chair votes aye, so unanimous approval from the trustees present, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. And Mr. Davis, there is a second Board Policy 4.11, Board Early Separation Incentive Program. Second reading and an update on that. Please take us through that.
Thank you, Chair Coles. Closely related to Board Policy 4.6 is Board Policy 4.11, which establishes the board's early separation incentive program. The policy was reviewed and updated as part of the 5-year cycle. It included additional information to clarify how the program is intended to operate. Throughout the policy, outdated language was deleted or replaced with current and more accurate terms. There were a few changes made in the policy as are reflected in your materials. We clarified that a written plan establishing criteria for early incentive must be designed to meet the purposes of the policy and requires the approval of the Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Facilities before it is implemented. Moreover, we made it clear that that presidents and the chancellor for the system office are the folks who have the authority to implement a plan, and they may specify additional work-related criteria to identify groups of people within under the policy who would be eligible, not superseding the policy, but additional criteria other than those authorized by the policy. And then we also talked about the subpart A was clarified to focus on the maximum amount of the benefit authorized. And we, in subpart B, changed the policy to permit presidents alternative approaches to the allocation of the early separation incentive between the healthcare savings plan, which is a tax-free deferred compensation plan, which allows people to use the incentive for eligible healthcare expenses. It's very effective in terms of being a bridge to something like Medicare, for example, or a cash benefit, which of course is subject to income tax, but is no restrictions on what it can be used for once you have the net payment. Subpart C was clarified to make it clear that simultaneous and overlapping plans are prohibited. And the 30-day comment period also concluded on April 9th. We received 2 comments during the comment period and accepted both. The first was from my colleague and the Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities, who recognized that the policy was a bit restrictive when it said that a purpose was to reduce salary and benefit obligations in anticipation of reduced state funding. He suggested we replace state funding with operating funding, which made it clear that what we're really addressing is an operating budget conflict. So we did make that edit. And the second commenter identified a grammar error in our first reading on part 3, and we accepted the commenter's grammar correction. And those were all the comments made for Board Policy 4.1.
That's terrific. I want to thank everybody who takes the time to review these policies carefully, particularly for grammar and clarity and accessible language, I'll say. So thank you for that update. Let me see if there are any questions or comments from committee members. I'm seeing none from any trustees. Please, Trustee Janet Johnson.
Chair calls, Vice Chancellor Davis. Oh, I have to lean in. Is this incentive on top of severance that would be received? So, given our financial discussion yesterday?
Chair Coles, Trustee Johnson, this incentive would be in addition to any severance that the eligible employee is entitled to under their collective bargaining agreement or compensation plan.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Let me just look around, see if there are any other questions or comments. And seeing none, hearing none. Excuse me, Trustee Erlinson.
Thank you. Can you remind, do we have an anticipated cost? Can you remind me? Is there an anticipated cost? Just to Trustee Johnson's.
Chair Coles, Trustee Erlinson, the cost would vary depending on the parameters of the plan adopted by college or university. So presidents will generally set a cash amount not to exceed the actual salary of the person who accepts the offer of the incentive. So there would be a maximum there. What I'm seeing on plans that are typically brought to my office is an amount somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000 on the high end. And that can be distributed contributed in part to a healthcare savings plan, or if appropriate, can be a cash benefit. So, and that incentive is accounted for in the college or university's assessment of its financial goals. The goal, of course, is to, in many cases, not fill the position vacated by the person who accepts the offer, and so long term, the incentive is paid for by the salary savings that result.
Good. Thank you for that follow-up. Any other questions, comments? I'll accept a motion to approve then the second reading material as distributed for policy 4.11. Trustee Hips and a second from Trustee Teffer. With that, I'll call the roll for the committee. Trustee Erlinson.
Aye.
Trustee Hips. Trustee Teffer. And the chair votes aye, so the motion carries unanimously, and we've approved the update of policy 4.11. The remainder of business this morning for this committee is to hear a recommendation from Chancellor Olson for two candidates as presidents, and then vote to approve or not those recommendations to be voted on by the board a little bit later this morning. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chancellor Olson to make the recommendation first for the president.
Thank you, Chair Coles, members of the committee. It's my pleasure to share with you my recommendation for the president of Northland Community and Technical College. I want to thank Sherry Olson for the past year for serving as interim of that institution. As you know, we have a very robust search process. We partnered with ACCT Search to do a national search which drew 29 applicants for the position. The search committee was chaired by Joy Bodine from Hennepin Tech. Thank you, Joy, for chairing this search. And thanks to the search advisory committee, some of whom are here with us in the room. We invited 4 finalists to campus for interviews and public forums, and then we gather survey results from those, anyone who wants to fill out a survey from different constituent groups to tell us what they thought about the candidates. And then I met with each candidate along the way, as did the Chancellor's Cabinet and Trustees Grabowska, Moe, and Teffer. It is my recommendation to this committee that you appoint Sherry Olson as president of Northland Community and Technical College. As you might remember from around about a year ago, Sherry has spent her entire career committed to the role that comprehensive community and technical colleges play in our society. She served as interim president of Northland during this past year, where she's done an outstanding job providing strategic and operational leadership for campuses, for both campuses of the college. Under her leadership, working with her team, they've seen a 9% enrollment increase at Northland. Before becoming the interim president of Northland, Sherry served as the president of South Mountain Community College in Arizona from 2011 until her retirement there in 2022. And it's interesting, we are attracting a lot of sitting or past presidents as candidates to our positions, which perhaps says something about the quality of our institutions and the way you curate them. Before that, she was one of ours. She had been the interim president at Anoka Technical College from 2010 to 2011. And she was recognized during that time as President of the Year by what was then called the Minnesota State College Student Association. Now we call it LEAD-MN. She served in the system office along the way and in a variety of capacities at Northland Community and Technical College between 1995 and 2007, including leadership roles. She holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from North Dakota State University, and her doctorate is from the University of North Dakota. We got great feedback from the campus. Students noted that she really cares about them and is open to suggestions and recommendations, and called her a great fit for Northland. Faculty appreciated her experience as a college president and her willing to meet and listen to faculty leadership. Staff called her a strong communicator and collaborator who encourages employee involvement in finding solutions. Administrators mentioned her strong understanding of the local communities, her experience with lean budgets, and said she was a great leader who puts Northland and its students first. And community members used words such as innovative thinker, passionate, and results-focused to describe Sherry. So, in a nutshell, here's why I'm recommending Sherry to this committee. Dr. Olson has tremendous understanding of the region and of what makes Thief River Falls and East Grand Forks amazing and distinctive. During her year as interim president, Dr. Olson has shown a real commitment to shared governance and towards serving communities of Northwest Minnesota. It's clear to me that she is the right choice to continue to lead Northland. So, Chair Coles, it is with great pleasure that I recommend Dr. Sherry Olson to be the non-interim president of Northland Community and Technical College.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Olson, and thank you to everybody who participated in the search process. This is one of the most important roles that any of us who touch the hiring and evaluation process can contribute essentially to the system's health and long-term well-being. And this is a great instance, and obviously a candidate who comes highly recommended. Are there any questions for the Chancellor regarding the recommendation? And I have none but admiration for, again, those who participated in the recommendation as well. I'll ask for a motion to appoint Sherry Olson. Thank you. Got a motion? Second. I see that. Thank you. And I'll ask committee members to vote. Trustee Erlinson?
Aye.
Trustee Hitch? Trustee Teffert? And the chair votes aye. So unanimously, we forward our recommendation to the full board for their meeting a little bit later this morning. Congratulations to Sherry Olson. And we'll have a chance for applause a little bit later. Thank you, Chancellor. And I'll ask now for your second recommendation regarding the president of South Central College.
Thank you again, Chair Coles. It's my pleasure to share with you my recommendation for the president of South Central College. I want to thank President Annette Parker for her 12 years of service to Minnesota State. She came in to leadership about the same time I did, and we were close friends all the time. We were presidents together, and she was a great mentor to me. And we don't have many folks that work in our system with the national vision and connections that Annette Parker has. And so my thanks, and there'll be other opportunities to share this with her, but my thanks to President Parker. For this search, we partnered with Academic Search as our search firm. National search, we had 49 candidates apply for the position. The search committee was chaired by Michael Barrett. Michael's out there, isn't he? Where are you, Michael? There he is. Okay. President of Dakota County Technical College and Inver Hills Community College. So thank you for your leadership as chair of that committee, and thanks to the Search Advisory Committee. 4 finalists came to campus for interviews and for public forums, and I met with each candidate, as did my cabinet and trustees Erlinson, Hipsch, and Richter. And as with the other search, we collected lots of feedback from campus on their thoughts, their preferences, their insights. So it's my pleasure and honor to recommend to you Ritu Raju as the next president of South Central College. Here's a few highlights from her career. She's got 20 years of higher education experience. She most recently has been the president of Gateway Technical College in Wisconsin, which has had strong enrollment growth. It's a Hispanic-serving institution, something that one of our institutions is aspiring to be, and created multiple partnerships with companies in the region. Previously, she was vice president of academic affairs at Tarrant County College Northeast, which is in Texas, and Houston Community College, also in Texas. She holds a bachelor's degree from Bangalore University in India and the University of Houston downtown, a master's degree from Sam Houston State University, and a doctorate from Texas Tech University. Here's some of the feedback that we got that was really overwhelming in its support of reading. The faculty noted that she has a strong teaching background as well as being very experienced with administration. Students mentioned that she really likes to be with and to know students, and that she's a president, I'm quoting, she's a president who would help us thrive. Staff and administrators use words like servant leader, warm, relevant experience to describe her. And community members noted that she came across as authentic and very partner-oriented, calling her a true leader. So here's my statement of why I feel she's the best choice for South Central College. Dr. Raju showed an amazing understanding of South Central College and its mission. Her commitment to serving students and to working with local businesses to meet their workforce needs was clear. She's had success with this work previously in her career, and we're honored to have her to be part of the Minnesota State family if you choose her to be. Chair Coles, I am pleased to recommend that Dr. Ritu Raju be appointed the next president of South Central College.
Thank you, Chancellor, very much for that recommendation. I'm impressed with the number of applicants for this role, and clearly this attracted widespread attention within the academic professional field. Excuse my voice, and clearly we got an outstanding candidate and recommendation from the Chancellor. Thank you again to all those who participated in the search process. And let me turn to the committee members and see if there are any questions for the Chancellor. Any comments? Thank you, trustees, for your participation. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from the committee. All right. I hear the motion in second, and I'm going to read this full motion and this is identical, essentially, to the motion that we approved a moment ago for the President of Northland as well. The Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee recommends that the Board of Trustees, upon the recommendation of Chancellor Olson, appoints Ritu Raju as President of South Central College with the anticipated effective date of July 1, 2025, subject to the completion of an employment agreement. The board in turn authorizes the Chancellor, in consultation with the Chair of the Board and the Chair of the Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee, to negotiate and execute an employment agreement in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities Personnel Plan for administrators. Period. So that is the motion that is on the table. And since it has been seconded, I'll now call for a vote. Trustee Erlinson?
Aye.
Trustee Hips? Trustee Teffer? Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to newly recommended Ritu Raju for the role of President of South Central College. And with that, the work of the Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee is concluded this morning, unless there is any other business to come before the committee. Thank you.
What a speedy committee meeting. So let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll start our board meeting. Good morning. I'll call the meeting of the Board of Trustees to order, and we'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll call the name of each trustee to register their attendance. Trustee Coles. Here. Vice Chair Erlinson. Here. Trustee Grabowska. Here. Trustee Hitch. Here. Trustee Janicic. Here. Trustee Jacqueline Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Jana Johnson. Here. Trustee Moe. Here. Trustee Murillo. Trustee Richter. Here. Trustee Sharon. Trustee Teffer. Here. And the chair is here. So we'll begin by hearing from the Student Association and bargaining units. We've started a little bit early, so maybe the student associations are not online yet. So we'll go to the bargaining units, and my notes say that ASME will make no remarks this month. So we'll start with IFO.
Morning. Thank you, Chair Soul, trustees. Invitations to our 50th anniversary celebration that's going on next month, and we hope to see many of you there. And I do just want to note that this is an especially difficult time on our campuses. The stress level is quite high, and there's a lot of uncertainty around a number of issues, as I'm sure you're aware. But today I wanted to address the conversation that happened yesterday around tuition. Universities have been projecting tuition increases as part of their budget proposals or budget planning for next year. And in general, they've been projecting tuition increases of between 7 and 10%, partially because they have to. The alternative to increasing tuition in significant ways was to get some appropriation from the state legislature, but as we know, that didn't happen. Yesterday, I heard the board talking about finding creative solutions, cost savings measures, and belt tightening. We are so far past those euphemisms on our campuses. We are slashing programs, cutting positions, and have been for years. It's true that some unknown number of students may decide not to attend a university if tuition increased. But I assume they still want to complete the degree at which they started, which means they would have to find a less expensive alternative. And there aren't a lot out there. So they might not end up leaving as much as we think. But I can guarantee that one way to lose students is to close the major that they want. Many students will, very few students will stick around if the subject they are interested in is not being taught, while many students may stick around if it means having to take out a small amount of extra student loan, or for most of our most marginalized students, they would not have to pay any extra. I honestly believe that fears about legislative anger over tuition increases are overblown. Next year's legislators are not a mystery to us. We know who they are, we talk to them, and we have been talking to them about this topic. We have conveyed the need for tuition increases if they cannot give us state appropriation. While no one is excited about raising tuition, the legislators we have talked to understand the predicament we are in. If they wanted to limit our system to 5% tuition increases, they would have done that. But they did not. We know that we have to make hard decisions about tuition, and they know this as well, in order to stabilize our institutions and our system. Prior to a couple of years ago, no one could remember a time when we had more than one university in retrenchment in a single year. Last year, we had 3. This year, we have 2. And next year, we could have as many as 5 or 6. if something doesn't give. We're talking about campuses having to eliminate programs in subjects like chemistry and math, eliminating high-cost programs in nursing specializations, dental therapy, or the arts. Vice Chancellor Mackey yesterday presented information that a 5% tuition increase would leave us with a deficit that equates to the loss of approximately 489 jobs across the system. Allowing higher tuition increases saves hundreds of jobs. However, we should acknowledge that those job losses will not be evenly distributed across the system. They will concentrate in the institutions that are most fragile at the moment, and those are our universities. Mere months ago, this board was considering whether to override the legislature's tuition freeze for FY25. And now that the legislature has said they understand that we need to consider higher tuition hikes, this board seems to be balking. You've heard from our students. President Jans mentioned that the students at Winona State certainly support a tuition increase that would provide the amount of money to keep their programs alive and to have the student support services that they need to be successful. And we know that our financially vulnerable students will be held harmless. I hope you'll consider allowing campuses to do what they need to do to keep our system intact.
Thank you for your remarks and for addressing the issue we discussed yesterday. Any questions from the board members? All right. Thank you very much, Jenna. Nate.
Hello. So I'm Nicole Emerson. I'm the statewide NEAC for chair for MAPE. Thank you, Chair Soul and Chancellor and trustees for letting me talk again today. I'm kind of piggybacking off of Jenna's talk. As I sat through the budget meetings yesterday, I felt I needed to discuss the importance of how we speak about the people in terms of budgets, if that makes sense. So I say this because language matters, right? And we know that. How many of us have in our email signatures our pronouns? I do. My son lives with autism. He's not autistic. He lives with autism because he's a human first. He's not defined by autism, right? I'm a mental health first aid instructor. You know, how we say things is really important, and it has power. And it can be dehumanizing, and it can be uplifting and empowering. And just a few of the ways people were talking yesterday about budgets, I thought this would be a great place to bring this in, where in the reality of where we're at, MAPE and AFSCME do negotiate with the state because we're in all agencies of the state. It doesn't make sense for us to individually negotiate our contracts with each agency. And yes, that's out of your power, but that's the reality, right? And how we speak about these things is really, really important. When budget conversations happen, especially those driven by external forces like the state, it's not just what we do that matters, it's how we talk about it. Words shape understanding. Language can either protect trust and morale or break it down. People deserve transparency and humanity in how we communicate. How are we being proactive instead of reactive? When the state determines our budget, planning ahead and framing the conversation early allows us to set expectations. It identifies core values and priorities to guide decisions. It builds trust by involving us in these conversations. Words like forced, words like some of the negative words that came across yesterday don't help. How can we frame what we're saying? Because in reality, without us, there is no you, right? Without us, there is no institution. Our students suffer, And I've already said how many times we're overloaded, right? We're overloaded. There were a few years in the state when we did have a state deficit that took zero COLA across the board. And that was more than 1 year. We're behind. I'm a single mother of 2 kids, both with mental health struggles, and I live paycheck to paycheck. And I do make an impact on my campus, and I know that because one of my students sits here with you all. I know I make an impact, right? And I know my other May members do as well. So I think we deserve the dignity and the humanization of the language we use when we talk about budgets, because in reality, it's us that get let go when you're right-sizing our budgets. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm welcome. I welcome them.
Yeah, I would just say, Nicole, that we do appreciate your work and work of the members of your unit. And if there were any words that were used, they were not to demean May or its members. It's just a little bit frustrating for entity to accept contracts and raises that we were not part of in dealing with and negotiating. And it's just kind of a reality that we face. So I don't think it was negative toward May for employees. It's just a financial reality. So thank you.
Thanks, Chair Sol. I appreciate everybody here. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Chancellor Olson, trustees, my name is Kevin Lindstrom. I'm president of the Minnesota State College faculty, and as always, I thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My original plan for today was to offer some initial thoughts on the allocation framework conversation that you're scheduled to have next month. But after listening to yesterday's conversation about budgets, tuition, and future projections, I decided to alter my course just a bit. We are living in a time of significant uncertainty, instability, and anxiety. That is my Captain Obvious statement for the day. That exists at all levels. It's at the federal level, it's at the state level, it's at the system level, it's at the institution level, and it trickles down to individuals in profound ways. Considering changes to the allocation framework at this point will simply add to all of that. The key to consider when thinking about the allocation framework is that it is a zero-sum game. In order to move money over here, you by definition in the model have to take it from over here or over here or over here. Moving it to one institution means taking it from another. Moving it to one sector means taking it from another. Engaging in such discussion or activity at this particular point will simply add to uncertainty, instability, and anxiety. And in the environment we're in, will quite likely pit one against another in very profound ways. We simply don't need that now. So what I'm asking is that any activity you do with regards to the allocation framework merely be about understanding. But please, please, please delay significantly any consideration of making changes to that model in a way that will cause further uncertainty, instability, and anxiety. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say for me, I need to understand the allocation model. And I think a number of the board members are kind of in the same boat, and we've had it on our agenda for a long time. So I can't control what motions or what happens in terms of board activity, but I think the main purpose for having it on our agenda is to understand it. but we'll see. All right, thank you. Okay, MSUAASF. Liz? Okay, maybe she's still coming because we're still early. Lead MN? Good morning.
Can you hear me better? Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Grace Horn, and I represent Lead MN as their treasurer for this term. And I just want to give a few updates on what we've been working on. With this climate, it's been questionable with higher education, I'm sure you're all well aware. So to continue to honor the mission of Lead MN during a time of uncertainty with higher education, we're planning to implement a federal advocacy campaign with the goal to send over 100 student constituent letters to all Minnesota federal delegation members. We want to achieve this by working with student leaders and their advisors across our represented colleges to coordinate a system and statewide campaign to advocate for continued funding for FAFSA, maintaining Pell Grants, and supporting TRIO program funding. We also want to amplify student experiences and empower them to advocate for their right to higher education. We hope to provide tools, guidance, and support alongside a network of education to ensure that students continue to have the opportunity to reach out to their elected officials, whether that be a part of Lead MN or within their own timelines. I think that it's vital that we support students during this time of great need. Without the continued support and funding of FAFSA, Pell, and TRIO, we lose opportunities for students to grow within their careers to help create a positive economic trajectory. Students would also lose access to important training and education needed to succeed in the labor market if we don't act now. This is an investment in our future generations that is repaid in contributions for our state, and we need to prioritize student eligibility and the maximum award that students need that they can receive. Another concern that Lead MN has been working diligently to address is to combat the ICE raids and the overwhelming fear that these raids have caused on all campuses. Myself and other staff members are putting great effort into gathering resources about civil liberties regarding immigration to provide students across the state a sense of relief, knowing that they are constitutionally protected. We are currently in the process of gathering contacts for TRIO and DEI offices for each of our represented colleges, creating a resource pool for to distribute onto campuses, and working hard to facilitate an informative webinar to discuss these concerns and to keep people well informed about their rights. The last update that I want to give is in regard to our DC Summit and our Spring General Assembly that we just had within the last month. Our summit had a great turnout that consisted of students that were very eager to advocate for their communities to make a difference. Despite the congressional recess that occurred during our trip, we were still able to work with today's Student Coalition to provide students with the opportunity to speak with our congresspeople's legislative assistants, to tell their stories and spark conversations about the issues threatening access to higher education. During our spring GA, we had another amazing turnout with our event at full capacity. Lead MN was able to foster an environment where students were empowered to vote and for students to run for positions within our organization. We're very proud to say that this year there was an abundance of candidates running for cabinet and governing council positions, all of which were passionate about advocating for other students on a state level. I appreciate your time. That's my updates for now. If you have any questions, I'm willing to.
Okay, any questions for Chris? So I would just say, Lead MN, we've continued our discussion about decisions that we need to make in May and June about tuition. We just had a discussion yesterday about that. So at some point, we're going to look forward to Lead MN's input on those issues. Okay, thank you. Okay, is Students United ready? Okay. Anyone else? Liz from
Musab? All right. If anyone else comes, let me know and we'll try and get you on. Okay, Chancellor Olson? Oh, no. Student United, he's from Student United. I'm not sure who's. Yeah, that's me. Are you guys ready to speak? Ran up the stairs. I figured I'd be safe. I figured Nicole and everyone else would have taken time for me to get still speak. But excuse me. As I've met all of you, my name is Adam Thompson. I am the Student Advocacy Coordinator for Students United. Unfortunately, Sierra was not able to join us today due to a personal matter, and so I will be filling in her stead. I want to preface the testimony I will read just saying, Students United, we are still in the midst of all of our work continues. We have closed our applications for scholarships in the midst of electing our new officers, our new board members at each university. The elections have happened or are ongoing currently. So by this time next month, we will have entirely new student leadership at Students United. We will have events like our Penny Golf Scramble this summer, which I will be sure to try to get all of you out to. But really, we will testify much more to that in May and continue our conversations with the system office and chancellor. But we wanted to cede really our time this morning to a letter that was written by international students. These are international students that were student leaders on their campuses, and I reached out to them asking them to write something that I could read to the board. So this will be their voice. As I'm sure we are all aware, our international students are feeling particular pressure and anxiety in this moment with the events of recent weeks, and wanted to cede this time so that you guys could hear directly from them. Mint State Board of Trustees, under ordinary circumstances, we would have appeared before you in person, standing alongside our representatives at Students United to share this testimony face to face. But these are not ordinary times. Today, we write to you or speak to you with a heavy heart and an urgent plea. Over the past few weeks, international students at Minnesota State universities, students like us who came here in search of education, opportunity, and community, have faced the unimaginable. On Friday, March 28th, an MSU Mankato student was detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, without explanation. Since then, we've seen several similar incidents involving our international students play out across the system. They have been taken without proper explanation. Students are held in detention centers without access to legal counsel or ability to contact their families. What is even more disturbing is in these cases where students have gone through the legal proceedings and were granted release on bond by a judge, they remain in custody with an unclear path forward It is alarming. It is all for us to think that a student very well could be taken without anyone knowing, and there's little to no system for our schools to work within the confines of the current federal government to find out. In addition, international students across their system had their student exchange visitor information system records terminated, otherwise SEVIS. We are currently aware of roughly 20 students who have been affected. I imagine by this time the number has grown. This has happened with no notice or explanation to the students or the schools. SEVIS termination
revokes students' work authorizations, restricts their ability to continue their education, and creates anxiety for all of our international students. Students are now terrified, disoriented, and fearful, wondering if they are next. Our universities across the system have been a welcoming place for centuries. Mankato's international student population ranks among the top 15 in the country for international student enrollment among master's institutions. We celebrate this. On our individual campuses, we hang banners of flags from around the world, and we say, welcome international students. We host international nights, serve global cuisines in our dining halls, and applaud cultural exchange as part of our identity. But in times like these, that is not enough. The reality is that these incidents have been so sudden and unexpected that students we warmly welcomed no longer feel safe within their classrooms, the hallways of our campuses, and even their own homes. We've heard many stories of students who are skipping class, avoiding going to the grocery store, constantly worried about the possibility of being detained next. Even the sight of an unfamiliar vehicle parked outside their residence triggers fear and anxiety. Are they here for me? Looms over their head every day. Many students who have not seen their families in years are canceling their summer travel plans with fear they might not be able to come back and complete their studies. And in this moment, international students must now question their freedom of speech. Students are curtailing their social media use. Student groups are afraid to meet in person. And while domestic students were rallying on our campuses in support of international students, the very people they were rallying for were afraid to attend, fearful that even a peaceful assembly could put their immigration status at risk. And in situations where international students would normally share their stories directly, such as during meetings with the Board of Trustees, we must now have someone speak on their behalf. We can no longer tell our international student staff they have the same rights as everyone else. Their dreams of understanding American values have been replaced by confusion, fear, and betrayal. The emotional toll is immeasurable, and it is unacceptable that students no longer feel protected in the very spaces where they came to just learn and grow. In June 2019, Minnesota State boldly committed to eliminating educational equity gaps by 2030, a promise grounded in the belief that all Minnesota students deserve the opportunity to build better futures for themselves, their families, and their communities. That commitment cannot be fulfilled without protecting the rights and dignity of international students, who are integral to the fabric of our institutions. Educational equity must include not only academic access and success, but safety, belonging, and freedom from fear. We want to be clear. We understand that many of these issues are out of our control. The wide swath are national issues, but the burden of supporting our international students in this moment, doing whatever we can, is a system-wide one, and that burden is shared by all of us. We are proud of the support shown by university leadership behind the scenes and the hard work that has been done by our administration and particularly by the international centers on our campuses. We understand that many arising issues fall at the feet of the federal government, but the responsibility of supporting our students to those that are here without documentation or they leave their home countries to attend our universities are ours alone. We need you, our Board of Trustees, to show that our university system will not stand idle while our students are targeted. We need advocacy. We need compassion backed by action. We call on the board to publicly reaffirm your commitment to protecting all students, especially international immigrant students and undocumented students. Demand transparency and answers from federal authorities regarding detainment and visa revocations. Demand the federal government and its agencies comply with judicial rulings. Expand access to our legal and mental health resources, not merely as just referrals, but as immediate and ongoing support system. The system office must take an active role in consolidating efforts and maximizing resources across all of our campuses. We must move beyond viewing ourselves as a collection of separate institutions and begin operating as a unified system. We must encourage you to engage in conversation at the state and national level to defend the rights of our students and uphold the values of education, diversity, and justice. Have conversations, speak with the folks at your international centers, speak with your students, and find out what else we can do to support our students. And then, in addition, and we would ask you to encourage full transparency from campuses to their student bodies, in regards to the events, whether it's ICE detainment, CVIS record terminations, while still ensuring and being conscious of students' private information are still protected. This cannot be our new normal. Please let our actions reflect the values we so often speak of. Let Minnesota State System be known not only for welcoming international students, but for protecting and standing beside us when it matters most. We do not share this out of fear alone. We share this because we have hope. Hope that our universities and the system, with its rich diversity and resilient spirit, will rise to this occasion. For equity, for justice, for students, we hope that you, the board, will stand with us. Again, that is from international students who are leaders on their campuses and within our system.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Trustee. Thank you for naming an issue that we're careful to dance around. We say turmoil, problems, issues. Thank you for being specific. And please tell your students, and you can tell Lead MN students as well, we do see you. I don't speak for the board, but I see you, and I really appreciate your remarks. I would just like to, personally emphasize again, I think there is very heavy gratitude for the system, for the universities. And again, I want to really shout out the international centers at our campuses. I have had conversations with all of them at our four-year universities, and they are, I told all of them, they are angels here on earth. They are doing work in unimaginable circumstances and unprecedented ones. And we know that we're all figuring this out along the way. But I personally had conversations with, the family of our detained Mankato student, multiple students who have faced CVIS termination, and the anxiety, fear, and hearing directly from them really wrenches at your heart. And so we wanted to create the opportunity to share this, but also reinforce that there is much gratitude for the work that is being done. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? We support all of our students. We support our international students. It's funny because Trustee Moe called our attention this morning to an article in the Washington Post that pointed out that of all the trade imbalances, this one works in our favor because students want to come to the United States to get education, and they're spending billions of dollars in the United States and not in other nations to get education. So unfortunately, all of the words that we might muster probably will not be considered by the decision makers who are, active in this area. But I think it's fair to say that the system is behind our international students 100%. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? Sorry, up here. Can you hear me?
We had just 1 minute, Jackie.
Yes, well, I'll be quick, but I just want to echo what Trustee Grabowska said. This is a call to action, and I understand that we can say things behind the scenes, but I would like to speak as a member of the Board of Trustees and say that I think it might be time for us to say something that is more public, and I'll leave that alone with that comment. But as others, I certainly hear what you're saying, and I think it's not a time for leaders in higher education to stay silent. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We had a robust discussion yesterday about budgets and tuition, and we're hoping to hear from Students United on those topics here pretty soon.
Yes, we are very much tracking those. Wanted to see this week or this month in connection with all the events, but we'll want to engage in conversations around tuition, I can assure you there.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Adam. Musa? Yeah. Musa, Liz?
like someone else said, you're not late, we're early.
Well, good morning, and thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you to our incredible students for their remarks. My name is Liz Steinborn-Gorley, and I serve as the president of the Administrative and Service Faculty at Minnesota State University Mankato, where I also have the honor of serving as the director of the Women's Center. The Administrative and Service Faculty, which includes the international emphasis, across all 7 universities, are actively engaged in recruiting, housing, advising, athletic training, leadership developing, and actively engaging our students in educational, equitable, and innovative programming. We are the staff who educate outside the classroom and provide the support our students need to achieve their academic and career goals. And we maintain these connections as Minnesota State alums through university advancement, continued education, and career development to ensure that our service extends beyond enrollment and that Minnesota State is woven into the fabric of our student and alumni's lives. While we would much rather have both eyes focused on the end of the year celebrations of the hard work and dedication our students have shown through their leadership and their studies, our eyes instead are darting furiously around to address the onslaught of legislation threatening to harm higher education, as well as the attentions of ICE, who have begun arresting our students. We've also witnessed our international students who often make Minnesota their homes after graduation have their visas canceled without a word. We are the staff who are holding information sessions for our students and community members on how to respond to ICE on campus and in our neighborhoods. We are consoling families whose children have been picked up by ICE and incarcerated. We are providing support to students fearful that their family members may face deportation. We are meeting with students to discuss their financial options as we learn that funding for the North Star Promise is in jeopardy. And we are anticipating requests for tuition increases at many of our institutions. We are also preparing for negotiations where we have prioritized real and tangible wage increases that include annual steps, cost of living, and career steps. And we are seeking stronger protections that strengthen our contracts and seniority. We are seeking support for the benefits in our contract that are often limited due to presidential discretion. Some of our campuses have supportive presidents and others do not. We are asking you to be a partner with us. We need your advocacy at the legislative level to protect our most vulnerable students, those who have the highest financial need, and those who are threatened with deportation. As board members and upstanding citizens of Minnesota, your voice carries weight. We need you to speak out against the predatory action toward our students and the aggressive threats against public education that we are seeing out of Washington, D.C. We make state education happen. And we have the chair of the Board of Trustees on our students' diplomas. And we need your help to ensure that everyone who seeks an education in Minnesota at Minnesota State crosses the stage to receive their diploma with all of us standing behind them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Liz? All right, welcome to the board and thank you. Okay, Chancellor Olson.
Thank you, Chair Stoll. A thread that we heard through all of the comments from our constituent groups is that we're in a time of chaos and uncertainty. And I think that support and understanding are how we stand together and get through such times of chaos and uncertainty. In my academic discipline, there's a thing called anxiety reduction. And one of the things that's been much studied is that when there's a lot of anxiety, the more we share information, the more we communicate with each other, we can't eliminate the realities of the world, but what we can do is reduce anxiety to a level that corresponds to what's happening. And another theme through it was the need for us to see the humanity in each other through times that are going to be very difficult. The humanity in our students, the humanity in our employees, the humanity in each other, so that we can together find a way through these very, very difficult times. So I'd first like to just make some comments about care for students. There are, I think, 4,600 international students in our system. And all of them, as you heard, all of them are at the moment feeling fearful, as are their friends and colleagues, their roommates, their next door neighbors, about what may come. We've tried to provide, collect information from the campuses and then share information back with the campuses on what resources are available, legal resources, political resources that could serve in support of students who are going through things like this. And as best we can, try to remember that each one of these students is a person who came here, who chose us, our brother, our sister, who now feels like the United States has turned its back on them. It's impossible. Some of you, have studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we in higher ed ideally exist at that uppermost tier, which is self-actualization. That's the business we're in, helping people become who it is they set out to be. But Maslow would tell us that you can't ascend to that top triangle in the pyramid if you're at a level where your very safety and security are at risk, where you don't know what's going to happen. And that is a moment where many of our students and some of our employees find themselves at the moment, and their attempts to self-actualize are being threatened. We have, I don't know, Jamie, if we can share this, but to something Adam was saying, we have written letters to the entire congressional delegation speaking strongly against these ICE actions against our students. And so we are communicating with Washington that this is unacceptable. Board, I think you have seen those communications, so you're aware of them. It's up to the board whether they feel we're going far enough or whether more is required, and that's a future discussion. Okay, well that's a future discussion. So, so I cut a little half because I was quiet yesterday. Right? Vietnam War. All right. Student, president, Hibbing Community College. Enough was enough. We got together. We walked down the street of Hibbing, Main Street of Hibbing. Came out of the college, walked down the street, and said, "Hey, this is insane." Nobody said you should do that. We did. Civil disobedience is not a bad thing. And in this process of America, it always comes from young people. All right? Now, you can come here and talk about it, or you can go up there and do something about it. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be bad. But it can be unrest. So people understand. And this board, I know that we as a board, send letters to the delegation, not just the chancellor, the board. All right? We can help. And I'll make that motion right now. It seems to me that there's a bunch of people here that are in. All right? Jackie, Trustee Johnson, all right? Yeah, all right? We as a group, as a board, can make, well, we could get off our ass and say, hey, this is stupid. was insane. And however, I'm not exactly a writer, but someone who does this could write it for us and send it to all our federal people, send it to the government, we send it wherever we got to send it as a board. It's not the same as Harvard saying, hey, we take this, whatever, and stick it where it belongs. But it's pretty close. It's what we can do. I make that motion.
Okay, sorry to interrupt your remarks here briefly. We'll get back to him. But so, is there a second?
I would gladly second it.
Then I'll third it.
Helps us draft the letter. Maybe choose words other than insane, but get the concept in there, and we'll circulate it among the trustees for feedback and send a letter if this motion passes. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, well, okay. I'll call the roll then on the motion. Trustee Coles? Aye. Vice Chair Erlinson? Trustee Grabowska? Aye. Trustee Hipsch? Aye. Trustee Janicic? Aye. Trustee Jacqueline Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Jana Johnson? Aye. Trustee Lowe? Aye. Trustee Richter? Aye. Trustee Teffer? Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Board. I wanted to say a few things about not just care of students, but care of employees. Thank you, Board, for the difficult but meaningful conversation about tuition over the last couple of days, and you heard perspectives from our employees about that. There was an article that maybe you have in your inbox that the Star Trib did. Aaron Adler from the Star Trib was sitting there yesterday tracking the conversation, and there's an article today, a fair article, I think, in the Star Trib that you may want to look at about the difficulties that confront us and about the challenges we face in balancing affordability for students with keeping our quality and our programs open to students. I was at Winona State when we had to do campus reductions, and I was at MSU Mankato after the Great Recession, where there were campus reductions, and now Trustee Grabowska and I work together with Rick Straka and others to develop a process for doing that. And they're incredibly painful and difficult, and the reverberations of that last for a very long time. So we have to be wise about seeing the humanity in everybody, caring for our students and caring for our employees, and figuring out where the lines cross, where affordability and tuition, where recruiting and retaining the best and the brightest employees intersect, and we can do both. And that's my hope. So through that uncertainty and chaos, the best thing we can do is be talking to each other, be listening to each other, see the humanity in each other, and as you just witnessed, see that this board sees the humanity in all this too, that they want to stand with our students and support our students. You just saw that happen. In the face of all that, today is maybe my second favorite day of the year. My favorite day of the year, I get to go to DCTC and celebrate a commencement, and I get to go to North Hennepin Community College and celebrate a commencement, and those are maybe my favorite days of the year. But this is my second favorite day, partly because we get to maybe have a couple of new presidents, depending on what's about to happen. And as soon as we adjourn here, most of us are heading over to the Doubletree to celebrate the excellence that we see in our faculty. And that's something truly to remember and to celebrate.
We'll, you saw that Joyce Esther, another, dear friend who I've worked with for a long time, will be leaving us soon to go to Governor's State, which is in Illinois, kind of suburban Chicago. I was on an HLC team that visited Governor's State some years ago, 10 years ago maybe, and know what a kind of a fine institution it is. It's kind of like this one. It's kind of like Metro State. It's really an upper division and grad type of institution. And so good luck to Joyce Esther as she embarks on this next adventure. And with that, Mr. Chair, I turn it back over to you for your remarks.
Thank you, Chancellor. Just updates, Trustees Grabowska and Hipsch attended the annual National Conference on Trusteeship put on by the Association of Governing Boards at the beginning of April in Chicago. Chancellor Olson and I attended a pre-session of the AGB conference devoted to board chairs and leaders, which was productive and which we learned a lot, but I would say the biggest insight was that we are normal. In Minnesota, we have generally the support of the governor, the legislature, and our state. Even in red areas, I think that Minnesota State and our colleges and universities have a lot of support, which was evident when we had our legislative breakfasts. And the legislators stood up and really tooted our horn more than we honestly could have or needed to do. But around the country, there was a lot of turmoil and boards being fired and, new chancellors and presidents who have to toe the line and et cetera. So we also, Trustee Tepper and I attended, along with the Chancellor and other cabinet members, the Nellie Stone Johnson Scholarship Dinner. I also give my thanks to President Parker, who's been such a institution in Minnesota State for as long as I've been on the board, such a tremendous leader for her college and for Minnesota State. We continued our discussion about budgets and tuition yesterday, and we'll have more discussions in May and June. We will have a session in May on allocation model so that we all understand the model. And I think that's it. Thank you again to Metro State and President Arthur and Kimberly Herr and our tech folks, Andrew and Darren, and to Carrie and Amanda for making this meeting go well. And soon we'll adjourn and run down the block, a few blocks, and have a great lunch with our awards winners. So next is the consent agenda, which is printed in the agenda. Is there anyone who wants to remove an item from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve the. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I'll call the roll on approving the consent agenda. Trustee Coles. Aye. Vice Chair Erlinson. Aye. Trustee Grabowska. Aye. Trustee Hipsch. Aye. Trustee Janicic. Trustee Jackie Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Jana Johnson. Aye. Trustee Moe. Aye. Trustee Richter. Aye. Trustee Tepper. And the chair votes aye and the motion passes. All right, now committee reports. Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee.
Thank you very much, Chair Soul. The Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee met earlier this morning. And in addition to a couple of policy votes, which we just approved in the consent agenda, we forward 2 recommendations to the Board of Trustees for action at this meeting. And they are very proud recommendations for new presidents at 2 of our esteemed colleges. The first we'll take these individually. Chair Stoll. The Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee recommends that the Board of Trustees, upon the recommendation of Chancellor Olson, appoints Sherry Olson as President of Northland Community and Technical College with the anticipated effective date of April 16, 2025. Subject to that's today. Subject to the completion of an employment agreement. The board would authorize the Chancellor, in consultation with the Chair of the Board and the Chair of the Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee, to negotiate and execute an employment agreement in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities Personnel Plan for Administrators. That is the motion that we forward to the board for its consideration.
All right, thank you very much. No second is needed. So I will entertain discussion on the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, I will then call the roll and vote on Sherry Olson for North. Trustee Coles. Aye. Vice Chair Erlinson. Aye. Trustee Grabowska. Aye. Trustee Hitch. Aye. Trustee Janicic. Aye. Trustee Jackie Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Jana Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Moe.
Aye.
Trustee Richter. Aye. Trustee Teffer. Aye. Chair votes aye. The motion passes unanimously. So congratulations, President now and future Olson. You can step up and talk to us a little bit.
When Chair Stoll, am I close enough? Okay. Chair Stoll, members of the board, Chancellor Olson, colleagues, faculty, staff, and students back at Northland. I am deeply honored to stand before you today as the new president of Northland Community and Technical College. For me, stepping into this role is like coming home. Raised on a dairy farm 10 miles northeast of our East Grand Forks campus, I have returned to the institution where I spent 13 years of my life in higher education, which has included a few states such as Arizona, Minnesota, Nebraska, Wyoming, and North Dakota. First, I express my heartfelt gratitude to the Board of Trustees and Chancellor Olson for entrusting me with this responsibility. Your confidence in my leadership is inspiring. I am committed to upholding the values and mission of Northland. To the faculty and staff back on campus, your dedication to changing lives through learning is the backbone of our institution. Your commitment to our student success is commendable. I look forward to collaborating with each of you to foster an environment of academic excellence and personal growth. To our students, you are the heart and soul of Northland Community and Technical College. Your dreams and achievements drive us to strive for greatness. I'm excited to support you on your educational journey and witness the impact you will make in our communities. Your success is our North Star. As we move forward, I envision a future where Northland Community and Technical College continues to be a beacon of opportunity and innovation. We will embrace new technologies, expand our programs, and strengthen our partnerships with local school districts, businesses, industries, and our Minnesota State colleges and universities. Together, we will create dynamic learning environments that prepare our students for the challenges of tomorrow. In closing, I thank my family, friends, and colleagues of a lifetime of work for their unwavering support. Your belief in me has been a constant source of strength. Thank you all for being here today. I'm excited about this journey ahead and the possibilities that await us. Together, we will build a bright future for Northland Community and Technical College. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were inspiring remarks, and welcome home. And we're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Sol. The Workforce and Organizational Committee also passed the second recommendation to the full board for approval. And I'll read it in its entirety. And in this case, we'd be welcoming a newcomer, which we always celebrate as well, and a later start date for your benefit. The Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee recommends that the Board of Trustees, upon the recommendation of Chancellor Olson, appoints Ritu Raju as president of South Central College. Did I pronounce your name correctly? There we go. With the anticipated effective date of July 1, 2025, subject to the completion of an employment agreement. The board authorizes the chancellor, in consultation with the chair of the board and the chair of the Workforce and Organizational Effectiveness Committee, to negotiate and execute an employment agreement in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities Personnel Plan for Administrators. And that is the resolution, Chair Sol, for the full board's consideration.
All right, thank you. No second is needed. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, we'll call the roll then. Trustee Coles?
Aye.
Vice Chair Erlinson?
Aye.
Trustee Grabowska?
Aye.
Trustee Hips?
Aye.
Trustee Janicek?
Aye.
Trustee Jackie Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Jana Johnson? Aye. Trustee Moe? Aye. Trustee Richter? Aye. Trustee Teffer? And the chair votes aye. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, President-elect Raju. Would you step forward and talk to us a little bit?
Good morning, Chairperson Sol, Vice Chair Erlandson, trustees, Chancellor Olson, and my colleagues and students. I am so humbled and honored to have the opportunity to serve as the next president of South Central College and to serve in the Minnesota state system. Minnesota State's commitment to providing a better future for all Minnesotans through educational opportunity and to supporting the state's sustained economic growth are truly impressive. South Central College's role in serving the students of the region while being a strong industry and community partner resonates very closely with my passion for student success, collaborative partnerships, and strategic innovation. Our students are the lifeblood of our institutions, and through the work with Achieving the Dream, South Central College has made bold strides in program development, student success, and holistic student services. The college is a strong regional institution, and it further benefits from being part of the Minnesota state system and a strong network that serves as an anchor for education and workforce development for the entire state. I am sitting here before you, but I stand on the shoulders of many teachers, mentors, colleagues, and community partners that have taught me, guided me, steadied me when I faltered, and supported me when I needed them the most, seeking nothing but my well-being and success in return. I will never be able to thank them enough for their wisdom, thought partnership, generosity, kindness, and humor. This moment in time is my heartfelt offering to all of those mentors. To my family, you're my rock and my anchor, and I wouldn't be here without you. The role of an educator and a leader goes well beyond being a job to where it becomes a ministry. A ministry that calls for unconditional love toward those we serve, humility, integrity, and kindness in all that we do, and respect and empathy in every interaction. For me, that ministry is rooted in faith and family. And I look forward to serving the college, the faculty, staff, alumni, and students, the communities of Faribault and Mankato,
as well as the Minnesota state system with complete dedication. I'm excited to build a collective vision that honors the legacy of the college while scaling new heights of excellence. And I look forward to working with all of my colleagues at South Central College, and I'm grateful for all of those that are here today. Together, let us craft a bold vision that finds opportunity in every challenge, that keeps us grounded in our core values at South Central College that are learning, integrity, equity, communication, collaboration, and innovation, so that we can make South Central College the college of choice and a beacon of hope for our region. Thank you for this honor.
You for reminding us of the elements of your ministry. That's very moving. I'm also very impressed that we get the news out within, I think, before the role is completed. I think maybe when the majority vote is cast, someone presses the send button. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, President. Finance and Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Chair. So, Finance and Facilities Committee met yesterday afternoon. We had 2 second readings, one first reading for IT policy, and spent the bulk of our time talking about the FY 26-27 biennial operating budget development. As a first spot, we'll continue those conversations over the next couple of months, and really looking at this biennium, but also the next 4 years. It was a key message that came out of the conversation yesterday. So with that's a report for our committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any trustee reports? Trustee Mo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to pick up on, you did mention an article that I called to your attention, and it follows up on Adam's comments. It was written by Catherine Rempel, a nationally syndicated opinion columnist, and it was in the Washington Post. I won't read the headline so that nobody gets offended, but basically what it said that in 2024, and I'll pick out 2 commodities in Minnesota. The U.S. had a net positive in terms of exports of corn, $15 billion. In terms of soybeans, they had a net positive of $26 billion. And in terms of education and related travel, $56 billion net positive. So I commend you to read the article. It's in the Washington Post. Thank you.
Noel, can you capture that and send it out to the board? Thank you. Any other trustee reports? Okay, we're ahead of schedule. We can get to the DoubleTree well in time. Thank you for your participation. The next meeting of the board is scheduled for May 21st, and we'll be here at Metro State. And just to give you a little preview, the board dinner will be in Minneapolis, near Lake Harriet. More details will follow. So there, pardon? You have to get up early for that. So there being no further business before the board, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.